Okay, and here we go. So, hello everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. Today with you is your loyal Indie Diaries, which is me, Anthony L. Wolf, as usual, senior content manager for social media, narrative designer, writer. I do a lot of things, wear a lot of hats, as you guys know by now. And with me today is another very special guest from the indie game development community, Kenneth Engelsen from Rain Games, and you're the game director at Rain Games, if I'm correct.
Hello everyone. Yes, I am a game director for one of our projects. So Rain Games has currently been running two projects. So very recently, the game Tesla Grad 2 was launched. That's from Rain Games. And I run the other development project in the studio. It's called Girl Genius and the Adventures in Castle Heterodyne.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, Girl Genius, which I tried at WASD, but we'll get into that in a second. So I've seen that you guys published a new update on Tesla Grad or Tesla Grad 2 and all of that because I follow you on social media. So looks like you're very busy. So let's get into it, and I won't steal too much time from you because I know it's a busy work day. So as a little icebreaker, tell me a bit about yourself. What do you do? Where you guys are based? Anything at all that may be interesting to our listeners?
Yes. People, they call me Kenny or Kenny G. It's been a nickname that's been with me forever. I work as the so-called game director, which is a role that comprises several disciplines. So I do the team lead of the development team. I do the production, which is budgeting and putting out tasks and managing like the operations. And then I do the game design on the game. So wearing many hats because we are a small indie studio and indie team as well. Girl Genius is made by a team of 7 people. So it's quite a small but experienced and disciplined team.
Okay, yeah, and the listeners won't be able to see because they're not going to see the video for this, but there's a nice whiteboard behind you where I can see you've been using to plan out main quests and dialogues possibly, and just all the different elements to play into the game. So that's a great little window into your work. So that's really amazing. Now, I'd like to ask a little bit of a fun question at the beginning of these episodes, which is, what's one game you think everyone should play at least once?
Ooh. Well, like it's a scary question, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because, back in the days, what would I say? Everybody had to play Baldur's Gate. Then everybody had to play Mass Effect 1.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a question that changes over time, thankfully, because game development evolves over time. But nowadays, I would say that the answer is Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire, right? Yeah, I know that. Mm-hmm.
That is a game that I would point everybody in the direction of, mainly because I think it has a very broad reach. It can work for a lot of people, even though it's a very mechanical game, as a card game. But definitely one of my big favorites personally. I've been overplaying that game.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've had someone on the show saying that they would recommend Slay the Spire to everybody. So you're definitely a first. That's really good. So let's get into some more personal questions for yourself, specifically as the game director. Which games do you remember playing growing up, and do you think they have an influence on your current work?
Absolutely. I think that just to answer your second question first, yes. When you become a game developer, you've been basically playing games for your whole life, most likely. But when you become a game developer, because you kind of have to train so hard and work so hard in order to achieve the level of proficiency needed, you kind of play less games of the modern games than you would have before you become a game developer. That's
Hmm.
why I think that we find so many nostalgic games in a way that the game developers look back at what they liked before. Uh, I think that's one of the reasons. And yes, I've been influenced by a lot of titles growing up that influence my work today, specifically Girl Genius as well.
Hmm.
The Zelda series is a big one. I grew up with Ocarina of Time.
Mm.
That was a big game for me and my friends when I was just a little child. I'm 35 years old now, so that was when I was in elementary school.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well,
So
35
that
years old, but still a child at heart, I'm sure. So yeah.
uh, never stops going, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big one. Of course, Jack and Daxter. We
Hmm.
played Banjo Kazooie, I remember.
Mm.
Um, and for me, I kind of also experienced in my younger days a wide variety of games. Let's just say that somebody I knew had access to a CD printer, and somehow I got
All
like a
right.
CD full of games
Wow. Yeah.
somehow.
That's
But
a
this was
dream for like a 7-year-old or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
back in the days. So I tried so many different games, everything from like Lion King and the Aladdin
Hmm.
games, like those
Yeah.
hardcore difficult games like back in the days. And then Diablo 1, we played. A bit, what can
A
I
bit of
say?
everything, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Jack and Dexter, Banjo Kazooie, and all of those because when I was playing the demo for Rain Games, it was I could definitely see those influences, like that those sections in which you use the little gadget, which I forgot the name of by now, but those sections over there, they really reminded me of those kind of games, and those influences are really clear on Girl Genius. So yeah, well, something again more about yourself before we move on to your current projects and games. When did you realize you wanted to be a game developer? Was there like an aha moment, sudden realization, or something?
actually, what happened was that was when I was quite young. I think I was around 14, 15, something like that, where I really contemplated how would it be to make video games.
Hmm.
And then I found the debug menu in Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 2. No, wasn't it? Like Baldur's Gate, yeah, it's a Baldur's Gate 2. Yes. Throne of Baal. I found a debug menu in that game, and
Mm-hmm.
then I saw like all the little trigger boxes where you would
Haha.
where you would walk into, and then something would activate it in the game. And then I decided right there and then I will never become a game developer. And
Well, what
that
happened then?
I came to my senses back when I was around 22. Then
Hmm.
I thought, well, I was probably wrong. I should try this because I care too much about games, and I really want to get a feel for how it would be like to actually work with it. So I decided then to actually start studying. So I studied IT with a specialization in game design.
Hmm.
So I learned programming as well, quite important for me actually. So yeah, and that's sort of like the progress story. I finished my studies, and after my studies, I practiced so much. I did so much prototyping and programming, and made like these little things, but just a lot of them. Just like,
Yeah.
oh, how to move a character this way. Oh, let's try like just small game mechanics. I made a ton of those, and then I didn't get a job in game development for some time. So I worked in other fields. I ran a bar, so I
All
was
right. Okay.
a bar manager. So that was pretty good because I learned from that, leadership skills, managing teams and managing a budget, and so
Yeah.
those things do tend to matter in game development as
Yeah,
well.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, I decided I want to make an actual released game.
Hmm.
So I started a project called Viking Chess Nefa Tafel. I know
All
that's
right.
crazy words, but it's actually a game, a digital board game that is based on a very ancient game, an ancient board game called Nefatafel,
All right.
from the Viking era, or that's what the historians believe anyway.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I made that
Okay.
project for as a solo dev, and then it was published by Rain, so
Hmm.
where I work here currently.
Yeah.
And after that, we started the Girl Genius project because we got an opportunity to work with the IP.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's a very interesting story. Now, I read an interesting tweet some time ago in which someone said every single in podcast that has an interview with an indie dev should ask this question, and so I'm starting to introduce it. I think it makes for interesting answers. So, how did you support yourself during your studies? Like, it sounds like you started at some point wanting to get into game development, that it didn't quite work out, and you did your bar management years. So how did you support yourself through all that? Did you had how did you find funding and all of that? Did you work crappy jobs while you were doing all this side stuff? What was it like?
Well, what happened to me was I decided to, like I told earlier, I decided to practice a lot. And then I did that on the side while working as a bar manager. So
Hmm.
I tried to practice like the actual skill sets we use in game dev. Um, when I did the Viking chess project, I decided it was like, for me, it was like, how hard should I commit to this right now? So I decided, okay, I'm not gonna try to apply for funding for this game. I'm gonna try to make a game that is possible to do as a solo developer, uh, without funding. So I would work a full-time job
Hmm.
as a bar manager and produce this game at what's it called, like part-time, you might say.
Hmm.
So
So you did it as a hobby on the side, really. So with the limited free time that you had.
yeah, so I work the
Okay.
weekends, or well, the weekends in bartending is Sunday and Monday.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, no, so I worked a few days a week on it. So that was supported by the wages of working
Of
with
course.
the bartending at the time. Uh, so it's a small time project, right? Like it didn't have like that big scope, but
Hmm.
it was very doable as a solo dev to do.
Okay.
Rain wanted to publish the game, but not like fund it or anything. But we would the Rain would support like that game into the market and everything as time goes.
Right.
So I guess that's one origin story, right? In the
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really interesting, and I think a lot of people would do that. Like myself too, when I was studying for my MA, I had to just work crappy jobs in between just so that I could then aim for something that I really liked. Also, I'm not a native English speaker. I've just moved here about 7 years ago, so it was a whole other challenge there. But yeah, so about Rain Games, so it sounds like you've jumped on board at some point, and Rain Games was already existing. Do you know the story behind Rain Games, like how the studio came to be and all of that?
Yeah, so Rain Games was started now a little bit over 10 years ago. It was started by Peter Meldal, the CEO, together with a founding group of people. It was very, very rough. in the beginning. They had a small studio, or I don't know if you would call it a studio at that time. It was more like a very boxed in room. I think they were sharing space together with a local indie band,
Mm-hmm.
musician band at the time,
All right. Mm-hmm.
called Casio Kids. Um, and and they first they worked on a game. I believe it was. I might be wrong here. I think it was a game that was called Minute Mayhem
Mm-hmm.
that got cancelled, and then they started Teslagrad.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first published title by the studio. If I just on the top of my head here, if I remember
Mm-hmm.
correctly, I think it was released
Right.
in 2013. So the studio was founded, I think it was around 2010 or 2011. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And by the
All
way,
right.
we're located in Bergen, Norway. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit
Right.
exotic.
Yeah, it does sound very exotic. Well, yeah, you mentioned that you started working on Girl Genius after Tesla Grad was released. So you've been working on Girl Genius for what, 10 years now
No,
or something?
no, that was I think you just misunderstood something there. No,
All right. Okay.
Girl Genius was started after I did a Viking chess game.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started well with everything related to that project in 2020, or actually
Mm-hmm.
part of it started in 2019.
Okay. So it's about 4 years, getting closer to 5 now. Right. Yeah. Well, and how did the Girl Genius project come to be? I know I understand it's a graphic novel adaptation, so you had the chance to work with the AP and all that. So where did the inspiration come from? Why did you want to do it so bad?
Yes. So here in the studio, we are fans of comic books and graphic
Hmm.
novels in general. The studio is has a little bit of a we enjoy steampunk aesthetics, which you will find in well, actually all of the Rain Games titles,
Hmm.
like Tesla Grad, Walter West.
Tesla grad, of course.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so Girl Genius is a very well-known indie graphic novel series made by Phil and Kaya Folio in the United States. And in particular, our CEO, Peter, is very fond of that series. He visited San Diego Comic Con, um, where he actually got to talk to the authors directly. So Phil and
Hmm.
Kaya Folio. And
Okay.
it was a sort of a stars align sort of situation,
Yeah.
because the authors, they were like, we really want somebody to make a video game based on our series. Uh,
Look at
and
that.
Peter
Yeah.
was, I love your series, and we are a video game developer. Can we do something?
There you go.
Yeah, and that's the real story. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
So it was
Wow. Yeah. Match made in heaven. Really. Yeah.
yeah, it was a loose handshake at the San Diego Comic Con, and then it was quite some time with emailing back and forth and figuring out like
Hmm.
everything. And then we decided to do a Kickstarter campaign for this video game production in order to partially fund the production of the game. And that Kickstarter launched in 2020 to a great success, thankfully.
Great.
Oof, it was the craziest time of my life.
Yeah. Of course. I know they're stressful, the Kickstarter campaigns. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. I didn't.
Oof.
It was a very very. If any indie developers are listening, yes, Kickstarter is very good, but
That's very stressful.
uh,
Yeah. Big source of stress.
yes, but it can absolutely be worth it. And also, I do really like the model of what Kickstarter represents, right? That people
Hmm.
from all over the world
Crowdfunded.
can come and support something that they
Yeah.
like. I really like that.
Yeah. Right. Well, bit of a cheeky question for me. Forget the marketing and sales jargon. Why is Girl Genius special to you?
Hmm. Well, for me, personally, it's my first big project.
Hmm.
Uh, Managing a complex operation. So this game is a proper production made over 3 years with like, even though it's a small team, but it has a lot of stuff going inside of that game.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the special bit for me. It's like managing such a complex operation and also getting everything done and out the door.
Hmm. Right. Now, you mentioned at some point that you came to your senses when you were around 22 and you realized, I care about games too much. But why do you care about games too much? Why are you a game developer? What is it that drives you forward?
It was that fascination of the media and how stories could be told that you kind of choose the timing of in a way.
Mm,
Uh, like I mentioned several times during this talk, like games like Baldur's Gate, and
yeah.
it was exploring a world where you could go either left or right and kind of, hey, do I want to interact with that character over there, or do I want to go over and do that other thing? It was like that simulation of a world space in a fantasy realm. That is what really pulled me in. Like, I want to tell stories inside of a media where you can interact with the game world. And the story bits is something that drive me a little bit as well. So, and also one of the things that really, once I actually started studying it, I felt like a wizard when I learned
Yeah.
programming. And I was like, it gave me that extra dimension of the creation part of the thing, like the disciplines
Hmm.
involved, is
Hmm.
so complex. Like, it's a mastery level. You can master things for your
Yeah.
lifetime of a career, and that additionally, after kind of getting interested in gaming at all, that was something that fascinated me.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess game development is one of those fields where you need to master a lot of different arts and put them together in order to make a game work. So you start thinking in terms of design, in terms of art, in terms of just planning, in terms of story, in terms of everything. So and gameplay, of course. So the fusion of all those things is what makes games so special. I really like this answer. So yeah, I totally agree. But that said, you've been, of course, doing this for over 10 years now, being in game development, small or otherwise. If you could change one thing about the gaming industry, what would it be?
Ooh. Hmm. I really want to answer like a good question or a good answer on that
Well,
one.
take your time. Yeah, there's no rush here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's I want funding to be a little bit easier accessible.
Okay.
um, that would be great. Like that gaming and game development. You know, eh, we struggle a little bit with being taken seriously in
Hmm.
some um, areas of society
Some
in a
areas.
way,
Hmm.
uh, because it's sort of like it's viewed upon as people kind of sitting in their room and just kind of being antisocial and playing video
Hmm.
games. But yeah, the so hmm.
Yeah, so there's so much more to game development than just playing games in a room. I totally agree, and so you would like more support for developers in general, indie especially, because I know that that can be a challenge. So
Mm,
yeah, I've heard from many people that being taken seriously or getting the right support, it can be a challenge because you know you either have apart from the fact that there's a lot of competition out there because there's a lot of indie game studios that want to be funded as well, but also the resources are limited, and it is a challenge. So I can definitely see what you mean. Um, After such a dark answer, let's do something a bit more fun. Imagine writing a letter to yourself, but 10 years younger, or back to the time when you were 22 and you just came to your senses. What would you say?
You made the right choice, but you could have prepared even better, son.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer there. And lastly, a bit more of another fun question, just to wrap it up. If you had unlimited budget and time, again going back to resources, what game would you create?
I have a dark dream somewhere in the back of my skull. I really need to make a game with lightsabers. I would make a
Right.
Star
Okay.
Wars game. That would be my absolute fantasy, because I just enjoy that
Mm-hmm.
IP so much. I want to make lightsaber combat.
I want to make lightsaber combat. I think that's a great way to end this episode. So I think for some parting words, where can other people find you guys? And if they do, what is the best way to support
Yeah.
you?
So you find us under Rain Games. Rain as in rainy city, because Bergen is a very
Mm-hmm.
rainy city. So Rain Games,
Oh, that's where the name
yeah.
comes from. That's interesting. Okay.
Yes. So you find us on socials. We use Twitter for the most part. So that's Rain Games. You find us on Steam, Rain Games, and right now you can find Tesla Grad 2 at all platforms available. So all consoles and on Steam. And Girl Genius and the Adventures in Castle Heterodyne is coming out later this year. We're keeping it that vague for now, but
When
when
it's
it's
ready.
ready, we'll let everybody know. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kenny. It's been lovely speaking to you, and it's clear that you guys are working on something that you really love. So, best of luck to you and the team. And yeah, well, I suppose I will play Girl Genius when it
Thank you
comes
very
out.
much, and very nice to talk to you as well.
All right, and that's a wrap on another episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the show. You can find it on Spotify and every major podcasting platform where you may be getting your podcasts. And also follow Rain Games online and social media in general. And of course, keep an eye on Girl Genius, because it is a very fun game indeed. And I can testify having it played at WASD. So, please follow the show on Twitter if you like what I'm doing. You can find me at the Indie Diaries, although that ship may be sinking soon. And just in case Twitter is indeed sinking, you can also find me on Blue Sky these days. Also, there is now a server Discord for the Indie Diaries, so if you do enjoy a cozy, positive, inclusive community of indie game developers, please join it, because I would love to have you there. Lastly, if you are an indie game developer, please get in touch. I would love to tell your story to my listeners who are always hungry to hear from people, talented people from the indie game dev community. So, I guess I'll speak to you next time in the next episode of the Indie Diarist podcast.